Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Ever do anything that unintentionally went viral at work? Here's what I did. I've done several, but here's my winner. This was around 1994 at a company with a little over 5,000 employees. Pentium-based PCs were brand new at the time, and people simply referred to them as Pentiums. I was one of a handful of employees lucky enough to have their old PCs replaced by a brand new Pentium. However, the new computers were tower cases which had to be located next to the monitors, where the old cases were the horizontal boxes that everyone else just sat their monitor on top of. I composed the following email to my boss. Jim, first, let me tell you how grateful I am for my Pentium. I've been playing with it all morning and its performance is quite impressive. As much as I love my Pentium, I do have one minor issue with it. It's about twice the size of what everyone else has. I know the standard setup is to keep it on your desk for easy access, but given its size, it honestly makes it more difficult for me to get work done. If possible, I'd like to keep it under my desk near my legs. If I moved my filing cabinet out a little, I should have enough room. Let me know if you approve and I can make the move without assistance. Thanks. P.S. Everyone needs a Pentium. I went to send the email and the spell checker kicked in. In a blur of motion, I believe I had clicked ignore all and then send. Instead, I accidentally clicked change all and then send. As it was new technology, Pentium wasn't in the dictionary. P, however, was apparently there and the closest match. My boss forwarded it to all of upper management, who in turn forwarded it on across the entire company. It was my first professional job, and within 2 months of working there, I was universally known as the P Kid. When I was in the military, I had access to classified materials and had an email account specifically to send those files. One day, as a joke, I put "sent from my iPhone" at the end of one of the emails. I didn't realize that the message would be forwarded around. As soon as people saw that, they started contacting their supervisors about getting their own classified iPhones. Eventually, it made its way up to some generals and they lost their S over it. I had to go report to my base commander and explain that it was a joke. He thought it was funny, but was peeved that he had been getting calls all day about it. A guy I work with always tried to humiliate me in front of his buddies and our boss by constantly telling me to shave because I like to let my facial hair grow naturally and just keep it as very short stubble unstyled. Every GD day he's shouting, "Have a shave!" like he's the absolute tease. He himself had a very thin and sleek goatee thing going on, which looked really stupid to me and also resembled a British soap opera character called Pepe DeMarco in my mind. One day, they are all having a coffee break together and I walk in and he goes, "For God's sake, Nogsworth, have a shave!" And I lost it and yelled back, "Oh, F off, Pepe DeMarco." My boss and everyone else laughed so hard that said boss changed his name badge and his name on the rota sheet to Pepe and has been begrudgingly called that ever since. Proudest day of my life. He deserved it. I had iTunes on my computer as I was doing design stuff all day and didn't need to communicate that much, headphones on. I didn't realize other people could listen to my stuff via the network, and one day my computer slowed down to a crawl. Turns out I had 12 people listening to my music library. I became known as the guy with the awesome 90s rock. 21 years old, just out of college, and starting my big boy job as a PC technician. I get a call from a user telling me that her password isn't working. The first thing I always check is if the password has expired because people will swear up and down that it hasn't. The command to check this is simple: netuser username/domain. I did this command instead: netsend username/domain. That caused a message to pop up on every screen in the domain with the woman's username. I should mention that this was a fairly large company with over 200,000 users on this particular domain, US. I caused a spike of several thousand calls to our central help desk 1-800 number, and my manager never even cared. He said, "As happens, and this is how we learn." One time I was in the back listening to music. A coworker comes back there and says, "What are you listening to?" I say Styx, and he says, "What are you, gay?" I'm not in the mood. I pause a bit and I look at him and say, "You can't ask me that." He says, "I'm not a manager, yeah I can." I pause even longer, as that's probably one of the stupidest things he can say, seeing as how both he and I were middle management. I say, "No, you can't. You can't ask anyone that. Not worth my time, kind of whatever." I didn't think anything of this incident. It was kind of, I like Styx, so what? I told a couple people about it because it seemed funny. Then I come to find, word got around. I get called into the office. They almost fired my coworker for his utter disregard of the harassment policy. I didn't want him fired, I told them to please not to, he was just being stupid. They had several meetings with him. Then everyone knew about this. They had to make sure everyone in management was aware of harassment guidelines. Give a review for employees. It wasn't a mess, it just became an event that I couldn't hide from. Then in the aftermath, everyone became unsure if I was gay. I totally ran with it. I love ambiguity. I talk about dates and use gender-neutral terms, not give names. People saying "have a seat" and responding, "Oh no, I'll stand, I'm kind of sore." We started to call my friend who always came my partner, who actually was my business partner, so it was accurate. I did my best to keep things subtle, telling some of the girls, "You're almost my type." Well, mine isn't all that great, but I used to work in a machine shop as an apprentice for a company called Berry Plastics building plastic injection molds. On some of the surfaces of the part area on the core/cavities, there was a sandblasted finish that was required. Since at the time I was a noob at the shop, I was the one that had to do it. Unknown to me at the time, their sandblaster was a royal piece of S. So when I started sandblasting the parts, I started getting frustrated at the machine with the first 15 minutes of operating it. After thinking about how it works, I decided that if I would just kick it a bit, it would shake up the sand at the bottom. So I proceeded to do just that. My method worked pretty good, as the blaster would work fine as long as I kicked it a couple times every few minutes. Although, after about 2 weeks of doing this, wearing steel-toed boots I might add, the bottom of the cabinet had a large indentation about 3 inches wide and about an inch deep. I decided to tell my supervisor that this had happened, and all he did was laugh and say that I was the only one who could get the blaster to work right for long enough to make it useful for big jobs. He then proceeds to call me the Master Blaster because the previously mentioned reason. The knowledge of the dent in the blaster got throughout the shop, as well as my new name, thus my name for the next 2 years were Andy the Master Blaster. It's also worth noting that after a while, I was moved to the grinding group, where the parts were precision ground to their final dimensions, and on a particularly bad day, I told a coworker that I felt like I was just grinding my life away. That saying stuck and became common nomenclature among the employees, especially in the grinding group. Back in 1998, I worked for a company that made the machines that made microchips, very large multi-million-dollar semiconductor processing systems. Our company had 10,000 people or so. Well, there was a minor downturn in our business. For fun, I designed a set of coupons that said things like free tote bag with every $2 million purchase, and $2 off all Centura rapid thermal processing equipment, limit 1 time per customer. I sent these to a couple friends in the company. In a few weeks, not only did I see them printed and hanging up in cubes around my company, my friends at Intel and AMD saw them at their companies too. I'm a crew chief in the military, and here are the 2 stories that really ring a bell. One year, we had an exercise where they were firing live missiles. Well, the jet came back and I was doing my inspection. I found this little pin in one of the storage doors and thought, cool, souvenir. So I thrust it in my pocket and continue on with my inspection. Next day comes around and the weapons flight chief comes up and is like, have you seen this pin? This long yada yada. I pulled out my poker face and noped my way through the conversation. About 5 minutes goes by and he is still standing there. At this point, I knew it was serious S, so I just came clean. Alright sir, I did take it. I thought it was cool and took it home. Cool souvenir, I will bring it in tomorrow. Instead of getting my A chewed, he shakes my hand and says all is good. I bring it in the next day and the first thing everyone asks me is, so you're the one who stole the diaper pin? F. Of all the things, it's a diaper pin? So, for about 2 years, I was the diaper pin thief. Second one, we stopped flying for a little while and we got a Zamboni to clean our PAS's, protected aircraft shelter, of all the grease and grime on the floors. I just had surgery, so I was nominated to be the Zamboni driver since I couldn't do much anyways. The flight chief decided I looked awfully happy on the Zamboni, so he nominated me the Zamboni DCC, dedicated crew chief, and everyone joked about me having my name on the Zamboni and doing inspections on it like it's a jet. That one stuck until I left 6 months later. Diaper pin thief and Zamboni dedicated crew chief. I work as a sound technician at Madison Square Garden. One night, I stayed late in order to get some work done, so I was all alone in the control booth at around 10 p.m. We have a radio in the booth that's usually tuned to the classic rock station, but I wasn't feeling it that night, and since no one was there besides myself, I was surfing through the channels for something good. For whatever reason, I found myself stopping on one of the Spanish stations. Now, I don't consider myself to be fluent in Spanish, but I can speak it well enough to get by. Lived in PA for most of my life, so I pretty much had to, and I can understand others even better. A song or two goes by and the DJ gets on and starts talking about what I surmise to be some kind of call-in contest. They're giving away $500 to caller number 10 as long as that person is willing to sing a song on air. I dial up the number, not even expecting to get through, but of course I do, and of course I'm caller number 10. So now I'm talking to this Spanish DJ on statewide radio, and he's talking so fast that I can barely understand him, but I know that I'm caller Diaz, and so I just start singing the first song that comes to mind, Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time. This was many years ago, in my broken Spanish. The DJ starts cracking up, cackling almost, and I begin to get the impression that something is wrong. I ask him if I won the dinero, but he doesn't even answer me. He just keeps laughing for literally 2 minutes straight. Right around then was when I started to get dizzy. Turns out I misheard cantar as cantar, to sing. The contest had nothing to do with singing. Oh jeez. If this wasn't embarrassing enough, I begin to hear muted applause. At first, I think it's a soundbite that they're playing through the radio, but after hanging up the phone, feeling lower than the Utah Salt Flats and $500 poorer than I felt I deserved to be, I notice that the clapping is coming from outside the booth. I walk over to the door and open it tentatively, fearfully, to be greeted by nearly all of my coworkers. They start going absolutely hog wild, laughing and clapping, and I don't realize what's going on until the balloons and confetti reach the ground. It was a surprise party for me. My birthday was the next day. My boss had assigned me extra work just to get me to stay late. They tell me that they'd heard everything. Apparently, someone had snuck into the booth while I was stretching and turned on the monitors. My impromptu rendition of Mi Golepio Bebe Un Mas Tiempo had been broadcast to all 20,000 seats in crisp Dolby Digital sound. So had the rest of my quiet night alone. Suffice it to say, I've yet to live this down. People still bring it up to me multiple times a day. In fact, if you ever go to a concert at MSG and look up at the Jumbotron, every 50th slide in the pre-show slideshow reads, "My name wants you to hit it tonight, baby," as an homage of sorts to my one-night-only performance. Sometimes they'll try to get the actual performers to say it as a gag or whatever. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.